Welcome, everybody, to another lesson. Today, we are going to talk about credit cards. And I have a personal story that I won't get too in depth with, but let's say back in 2011, I had, man, I had at least 5 credit cards, if not more. I was like total of $30,000 worth in debt. Yeah. That wasn't including my student loans, that wasn't including my car payment, that was just credit cards. And I was younger and I was dumber and I was thinking, oh boy, I got all this money. I can run out on the town, have parties. I could blow it on all kinds of stupid stuff. Why ended up maxing out all of my credit cards, right? So I was about 25 or 30,000 in credit card debt. And I wasn't able to afford the monthly payments anymore on them. Plus, I was starting to miss car payments. As a result, I ended up getting my car repossessed, which led to me later in 2011 having to file for bankruptcy because the car company that I got the car repossessed from, they were going to come after me and sue me for the difference of what they couldn't sell it for. And plus, the credit card companies are getting ready to come after me. So it was not a good time, but thankfully I have amazing parents who helped me through the time, and I lived with them at the time, so they were very supportive of me and got me back on my feet. But unfortunately and sadly, some of you don't have that, and if you're not careful, you can end up in a situation like I did, where you become flat broke and all kinds of debt and don't have a prayer. So if I can reach anyone today, that is my goal, to try to keep you out of that. Especially a lot of younger people just out of high school, beginning college, thinking, oh, I got all this money. Well, yeah, you enjoy it now, but you're going to pay for it later. Trust me on that. I only have 3 problems today, but I want you to really understand how these credit cards work. Okay? So let's start with our first example here. Alright, let's see. So let's talk about Antonio. Antonio has a credit card with a balance of $4,876.54 with an APR of 21.3%. How much is his minimum payment? How much of his payment goes towards interest? Principal? How long will it take him to pay it off with only minimum payment? Alright. So we have Antonio. He's fresh out of his freshman year of college. He has a credit card with a balance of $4,876.54. His annual percentage rate, or APR, is 21.3%. What is his minimum payment? How much of his payment goes towards the interest, the principal? How much will it take him to pay it off with only making the minimum payment? And keep in mind, that's assuming he makes no additional purchases on his credit card. He's disciplined, he just focuses on paying it off, but he's only making a minimum payment. Well, the minimum payment on a credit card, the minimum payment, generally, most credit cards for a minimum payment want 2% of your balance. So that'd be 2% times that $4,876.54. So yeah, most credit cards for minimum payment is 2% of your balance. So 2% as a decimal, 0.02 times is $4,876.56. Right? Now we put that in the calculator. This is just for his minimum payment. Let me get my phone so I can actually use a calculator, huh? Have my phone charging. We're expecting an ice storm, and I'm trying to keep my phone charged in case the power goes out. Alright, so put in that 0.02 times 4876.56. So his minimum payment is going to be, if you round to the nearest cent, it'll be $97.54. That's what he's got to pay just on one credit card every month, $97.54. He's paying darn near $100 every month. Which, it may not seem too bad, but when you got to pay that every month and you could be using that money to save or doing other things, it kind of sucks. So we figured out the minimum payment. Now we need to figure out how much of that is he paying in interest. It's going to astonish you. To figure out the interest, what you got to do, the interest is based on the simple interest formula. If we recall from the last lesson about simple and compound interest, it's that I equals PRT, which I'll put over on the side for our simple interest. I equals PRT, right? The interest that he's paying, which is the principal of $4,876.54, times the APR, the annual percentage rate, is 21.3%. Now the time T is usually in years, but this is assessed every month. So every month is 1/12 of a year. It'll be 1/12 of a year for that. So that's going to be equal still to $4,876.54. 21.3% as a decimal is 0.213. All that times 1/12. Let's get an approximation here. Now we're just going to stick all this into the calculator. Let's take 4876.54 times 0.213 times 1/12. So it looks to be that $86.55 of it is going towards interest. So in interest on that payment, he is paying $86.55. We want to figure out how much is he paying towards the principal. The principal is going to be How much is he paying towards the principal? The principal P is equal to the total payment, which would be that $97.54 minus the $86.55. That'll tell you how much he's actually paying towards the principal. So let's go ahead and do that math, because most of your payment, I'm going to tell you, is going to go towards interest. $97.54 minus $86.55. Ready for this? The amount of the payment that's actually going towards his principal is $10.99. That's all he's paid towards his principal, is $10.99. So suddenly making the minimum payment doesn't sound very good. Now, the question also asks, how long is it going to take him to pay this off? So for the time, you're going to take the total principal, which is going to be equal to that $4,876.54. You're going to divide that by what he's paying on the principal every month. It'll be divided by $10.99. Let's see how long that takes him. I think it's going to startle you exactly how long it takes him. So 4876.54 divided by 1099. So that'll take him 444 months. 444 months, which is approximately equal to let's see, was 444, come on phone, divided by 12, that'll take him 37 years. 37 years to pay off. So, again, we started with his credit card balance to figure out the minimum payment, 2% of the principal. We got $97.54 for his minimum payment. Now the interest, the amount he's being charged in interest each month is $86.55. They're going to take the interest from your minimum payment. Most of that's interest. Which the difference is that $10.99 is what he's actually paying towards the principal. If he only makes a minimum payment, he's only paying $10.99 towards the principal. It'll take him 37 years to pay that balance off. So as you see, you can really get into trouble with credit cards very quickly. I got two more examples here. So while that $4,000 and something balance doesn't really seem that bad, if you're only making the minimum payment, you're going to be in it for a very long time. Okay. Let's see. Becky has a credit card with a balance of $5,328.88 with an APR of 18.7%. What is her minimum monthly payments. How much of the payment goes towards interest? Principal. How long will it take her to pay off with only minimum payments? Alright. Let's see. In this problem, in the book, it states she's fresh out of her junior year of college. Still college age. She has a credit card balance of $5,328.88 with an APR of 18.7%. What is her minimum monthly payment? How much of the payment goes towards the interest? How much of it goes towards the principal? And if she makes only the minimum payment, how long is it going to take her to pay off that credit card? Well, first thing we want to do is figure out her monthly payment. Again, the minimum monthly payment, M, most credit cards want 2% of your balance. Would be 2% times that $5,328.88, right? Which would be equal to 0.02 for the decimal form of 2%, times the $5,328.88. So we plug this into the calculator, we'll get our monthly minimum payments that she can expect to pay. 0.02 times 5,328.88. She's looking at a monthly payment of $106.58. So her minimum payment is $106.58. Alright. Now let's figure out how much of her monthly payment is going towards interest. So let's take the interest formula, the simple interest formula, which is equal to the principal, in this case $5,328.88, times the rate, her APR of 18.7%. And again, since this is assessed every month, T is usually in years, it's assessed every month. So it's 1 out of 12. Every 1 out of 12 months. So every 1/12 of a year, every month is assessed. So now, let's simplify this a bit. We'll still have the $5,328.88. 18.7% as a decimal is 0.187. That 1/12 will stand. Then we'll get to figure out approximately how much of it's going towards her interest. So 5,328.88 times 0.187. Take that result times 1/12. So she'll pay $83.04 of that is going to interest. $83.04 of it is going to interest alone. Now, if you want to figure out how much of it's going towards the principal, the P, you'll take the minimum monthly payment of the $106.58. You'll subtract the interest from that, which is $83.04, because they take the interest right off the top of your monthly payment. Let's see what she's going to have to see what's for the principal. So 106.58 minus 83.04. So it's only like she's been paying $23.54. She's only been paying $23.54 towards the principal of her credit card. Now the time, in order to get the time it's going to take, how long will it take her to pay it off? You're going to take the principal, that $5,328.88. You're going to divide that by the $23.54 of how much goes towards the principal, and we'll get an approximation here about how long that's going to take her to pay off. 5328.88 divided by 23.54. That's going to take, let's see, 227 months, which is approximately equal to how many years? 227 divided by, that's pretty much 19 years. Alright, so it'll take, if she only makes a minimum payment, assuming she makes no more purchases or anything on this credit card, making only the minimum payment, it'll take her about 19 years to pay this card off. Yikes. So, of course, we wanted to find her minimum monthly payment. That was 2% of the balance of her credit card. Her minimum monthly payment was $106.58. To find the monthly interest on her credit card, you take the principal times the annual percentage rate times 1/12 of a year, because that's what a month is 1/12 of a year. Came up with $83.04 in interest. How much is going towards the principal? You take your minimum monthly payment, you subtract the interest from that, you only are paying $23.54 towards the principal. The time it's going to take her to pay it off, take the principal, $53.28 and 88 cents, divided by $23.54, you get about 19 years to pay it off. Yeah. Horrible. I got one more problem here. I'm trying to keep this shorter today because I believe this may be the most important lesson I teach, quite honestly. If I could save any of you from going through the heartache I went through, please. I'm hoping this helps more than understanding the math of it. Just help yourself stay out of debt if you can. Alright, let's see. I had 7 credit cards with $5,000 on each card for a total of $35,000. Yeah. The APR on each card was 23%. What was my minimum payment? How much went towards interest, principal, how long would it take me to pay off with only minimum payments? Alright, so this is somewhat true about me. I mean, the numbers may not be exact, but when I was at my worst, I had 7 credit cards with about $5,000 each on them for a total of $35,000 of credit card debt. The APR on each card was 23%. For this case, we're going to assume the APR was the same rate for all of them, which it wasn't, but we will assume that. So that way we can combine it into one total of $35,000. So we're going to say, what was the minimum payment every month on the $35,000, right? And remember, most companies want 2% of your credit card balance. So minimum payment was 2% of $35,000, right? What is 2% of $35,000, which that would equal 0.02 times $35,000. Yeah, I was at a point I was robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you've heard that expression. That was the point I was at. So, ready for this? My minimum payment every month just on credit cards total would have been $700. Ouch. $700 on them. Okay. And that's just for the minimum payment. Let's figure out what that interest would have been. How much of that I was spending towards interest. So that would have been the principal of $35,000 times my rate. The annual percentage rate was just 23% times the time. That was every month, 1/12 of a year for a month, right? Which will simplify to 35,000 with a decimal for decimal of 23% is 0.23 times 1/12 of a year. Alright, so my interest, whoo boy. Times 0.23. How about that times 1 divided by 12? Oh, this is horrible. The interest that I was paying was $670.84. That was interest that they take off the top of the minimum payment. $670.84, okay? Now, let's figure out how much was I spending towards the principal. I think we have an idea which way this is going. Not very much, right? $700, that minimum payment, minus that $670 in interest that they take off the top of it. $670.84. Oh, this is not pretty. This is really not pretty whatsoever. 700 minus 670.84. I was only spending $29.16 towards the principal. That's combined for all 7 credit cards. $29.16 towards the principal. Yeah. So, how much time would it have taken me to pay this off? The time, if I take that $35,000 of debt that I had, divide it by $29.16. Let's see what it gets. I bet you it's well over 100 years, but 35,000 divided by 2916 would have been 1,201 months. 1,201 months, which is approximately, about 100 years. It would have taken me 100 years. Probably not in my lifetime would I have paid it off, and my loved ones probably would have been stuck with that. So yeah, it would have taken me 100 years to pay that off. Thank God I was able to file for bankruptcy, but let me tell you something. That's not a route you want to go, because bankruptcy also takes a huge hit on your credit score. It could take, even if you had good credit, it'll take you down to like the 4 and 500s for a credit score. And you'll need co-signers to get a car, to get an apartment, or anything. Thankfully, I've come a long way from there. I'm able to stand on my own again, but man, I'm just telling you, think about what you're doing with credit cards. I don't want any of you guys to have to go through what I went through. I also talked to a gentleman today who used to have a $100,000 a year job. So he had all kinds of stuff that he was making payments on and he could afford. Well, he lost that $100,000 a year job, wasn't making even half as much per year in his next job, was only making like $40,000 something, but he still had the debt for an over $100,000 a year job. I can tell you, these creditors, these companies, they want their money. They do not care. They want their money. They're going to get it one way or another. So try to live below your means. If you're going to use credit, that's fine for emergencies, but try to only spend half of what you make. That way, if something happens, it's not so bad. And if you can with credit cards, again, I'm not a financial advisor, okay? I'm just giving you practical experience I've had, and lots of others have. If you can, make more than the minimum payment. That's going to help you get out of debt a lot faster and a lot less interest you're going to have to pay. I don't know if you've heard of the snowball effect. So if you have several credit cards, start with the credit card that has the smallest balance first. Pay the heck out of that. Pay that down. And then once you pay that, take that money that you were paying on the smallest credit card, pay it on the next smallest credit card, pay that off, and then go to the one that's got even more balance and pay those off, and you kind of snowball that into your biggest credit card, and you can pay it off a lot quicker. So really, just be careful, make good financial decisions. I don't want to see any of you end up in that situation that I was in. But next lesson, we will talk about ratios. We'll be moving on to something different. I hope everyone has a good day. Thank you.